15 seconds. This broadcast will start in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The Voice of Stockton. For more information on The Voice of Stockton, go to thevoiceofstockton.org.
The views and opinions expressed in the following program do not necessarily reflect those of KXVS The Voice of Stockton or its parents, affiliates, management, and staff.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another amazing episode of the Phone Booth here on KXVS, The Voice of Stockton. My name is Ed Heitman, and joining me in the studio today is my good friend and co-host, Brian Rodriguez. How you doing today, man?
Glad we got those technical issues resolved.
Yes, definitely. We were afraid that we weren't going to be able to broadcast to you guys today. There's a lot going on today, and we were encountering some technical difficulties. And at first we were going to not do this episode, but luckily we were able to sort things out with the management here at the station. And we were luckily able to get this episode out to you guys. Now, I just wanted to mention that today, on the Miracle Mile, our station has we're working on two different events. We have the function that's going on right now at the Art Lab and across the street until like 4 o'clock. And then afterwards, we have the Bedford Block Party that is starting at 6 o'clock. And that's going to be going on every month at the last Saturday. So please, if you guys want to swing by and just see what we're up to, we're more than welcome to it. Now, last week we didn't have a chance to do an episode of the Phone Booth because of the fact that Stockton Con was last week, and I was able to get some interviews done. Unfortunately, it was vendors and people promoting events. The guests, managers were a little finicky about who we could interview and who not. But we have the footage, and pretty soon that'll be put up for you guys to watch once it's done going through the whole editing process and whatnot. But until then, we decided to comb through a little bit, even though we had 2 whole weeks worth of news to look through. Nothing was really going on, huh, Brian?
Yeah, it was a little empty. It's the post-con drought, Every con happens within like 2 months, and then after that, there's they're missing a bit of news. It'll pick back up soon, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. It's always nice to share news with you guys. But we were able to scrounge up a little bit of something for you guys to go on with. So here's a weekly wrap-up, at least for this week, and a little bit of news from the previous week, though not much. Now, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 has been put on indefinite hold. According to The Hollywood Reporter, the film's crew members have been told that they are free to find work on other films, with rumors that the cast of the film has also been told the same thing. The future of the film has been in limbo since the firing of writer/director James Gunn. And this is basically I want to say this is the conclusion of the whole James Gunn controversy. We haven't really been wanting to talk about it too much because everybody is talking about it, and it's a really heated topic. And Brian and I, we try our best to avoid drama.
We've discussed it a little bit in the past. I know you did a video on your channel about it, but we've been trying to sort of steer away from it on the show because for a while there, I think we were both getting a little too bit into the drama of certain aspects, and I think we're trying to pull away from that.
Definitely. I did talk about it on my channel, Ed Heitman, if you guys ever want to check that out. But Brian's right. We kind of got a little too heated, too involved into it, and really we thought it was best to just wait until the dust is settled. Everything's said and done. Nothing really to get heated about now, but to just accept what has happened. And James Gunn is indefinitely not going to return to Disney.
Yep.
They've stuck to their guns. They are not bringing him back. I heard supposedly they were talking about possibly working with him on Volume 3, but he's no longer directing it. And it's unsure whether or not they're even going to be using the official script that James Gunn himself wrote for this film. And it's a bit concerning if they are going to use the script or not, because but Dave Bautista, the person who did the voice of who's the person who plays as Drax in the Guardians of the Galaxy films, He said that if Disney does not use James Gunn's original script for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, then he's going to ask for his contract to be terminated. And I wanted to bring this up because a lot of people are saying that he said that he was going to quit if they don't use James Gunn's script. And that's not the case. He's asking for his contract to be terminated because he is bound by contract to star in this film. And right now they're looking for other directors. The most common one is I get his name wrong sometimes. Taika Waititi, I want to say his name was.
Yep, Taika Waititi.
Yeah, he worked on Thor Ragnarok. But and considering that movie had almost similar style to the Guardians of the Galaxy films, it would be the best choice. But a lot of people are still just upset that James Gunn isn't involved in this project. So what are your thoughts, Brian, on this film being put on indefinite hold?
I think it was sort of inevitable when you get this close to when you get this far into pre-production and this close to actual production, and then you fire your director. It's sort of inevitable that it's going to at least be postponed, and I think that's what's going to happen. Is they're going to postpone it. It's not going to be outright canceled because Guardians of the Galaxy makes bank for them. They're going to make another movie whether James Gunn is in it or not. But I think they're going to take a step back and reevaluate. I kind of hope they don't hire Taika Waititi, because while I love him as a director, he has a very distinct flavor as a director, a very distinct style that's similar to James Gunn's, but not the same.
What do you mean?
He's a bit more random, I'd almost say.
Well.
And while it's a very good directing style and he's very funny as a director, he is different from James Gunn, and I think you'd be able to feel the difference between James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy and Taika Waititi's Guardians of the Galaxy.
That is true. That is definitely true. And there's also been rumors floating around that Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 would be, in fact, the final installment of the Guardians franchise. So there's so much going on regarding the future of this film, but it was important for us to bring up this fact that it is on hold. Because a lot of people were thinking, so what's going on with Guardians? James Gunn is gone. What's going to happen now? And we wanted to share that news bit with you. I'm going to pass this next little news bit over to my good friend Brian.
CD Projekt Red's next game, Cyberpunk 2077, is apparently now playable from start to finish. By which they mean that the gameplay is locked down, the story's in place. Right now, all they need to do is add a lot of assets to the game and then go through the rigorous process of bug testing and play testing, which, given how polished CD Projekt Red games tend to be nowadays, that'll probably take a while.
Yeah, it's true. And kind of surprised that Cyberpunk 2077 is already ready to play, because it seems like when E3 had come out, all we had gotten were just little demos. And people outside of E3 don't even know what the demos even looked like.
Yeah.
I heard one person try to actually leak footage of the demo, but they got into a whole lot of trouble.
Someone recorded audio when they weren't supposed to, leaked it, it got taken down, and they tried to do this entire... Oh, well, they didn't specifically tell me it was an entire thing. He was a jerk. But Cyberpunk's actually been in development for a while now. The first teaser trailer for it was released in 2013.
Really?
Yeah, and then we didn't hear anything about it until right before E3 this year. They were working on The Witcher, and they were trying to sort of keep it under wraps, because there are rumors that it went through a few development reboots, this, that, all this behind-the-scenes stuff. But it's actually been in production for a while now, so it's good to see that it's finally in a playable state.
Yeah, and that is good to hear. And I'm interested when they're talking about trying to gather assets. I'm not sure what they mean by that. Like, are they trying to add artwork to the environment, possible music?
It's just finishing up. It's finishing up artwork, finishing up NPCs that walk around. This, that, all the little details here and there. Maybe they want to change what vehicles look like, so they need to redo those assets. They've got the gameplay down, what the game's going to play like, how, if there are vehicles, how they're going to feel when you drive them. They've got all the story missions in there. Now they just need to sort of finish up how everything looks and iron out all the bugs.
Okay. Well, that sounds good. I'm definitely excited to play this game. At the moment, not a lot of people. There are some people who are not interested in playing the game, but we'll talk about that later on within today's episode.
Yeah.
But I'll take this next little bit of news. The next James Bond film just lost its director, unfortunately. Danny Boyle, director of Trainspotting and 28 Days Later, two terrific movies in my personal opinion, has announced he will be leaving the project due to creative differences. It's rumored that Boyle's leaving will delay the film from its October 2019 release date. Rumored replacements for Boyle include Mission Impossible Fallout director Christopher McQuarrie and possibly the legendary director, or at least I think he's legendary, Edgar Wright. Now, remind me, Brian, what exactly is the rumor floating around as to why this director left? It was due to creative differences, but
the current rumor is, and they're actually two very different versions of the same rumor, is that there was a disagreement over who would play the main villain. There was a Polish actor whose name I cannot remember, and even if I could, I would absolutely butcher. And the rumor is, here's where it's right out of bridges, that either Boyle really wanted this guy to play the villain, and the producers and Daniel Craig didn't, or that he really didn't want him to play the villain, and the producers and Daniel Craig did. And two very different versions of a similar rumor, and we're not quite sure what the true one is. There are also rumors that the film's original script was delving into current political tensions with Russia, and some of the producers and the studio weren't quite comfortable with it being that close to reality. Which, I mean, on the one hand, you kind of want it to reflect real life. On the other hand, yeah, with the tensions currently, you can understand that.
Yeah, I mean, I could understand that. I mean, with all the dilemmas we're dealing with right now concerning Russia, I can understand them not wanting to cover that. But there's also the fact that with the latest Bond films, especially the one that Daniel Craig was in, they've been trying to have it close to reality. They weren't trying to have like some copy-paste diabolical villain with an eye patch trying to rule the world. They were trying to have somebody who seemed a lot more realistic. And if they focused on Russia, it would seem like a very realistic scenario to put James Bond into. In regards to the other rumor regarding the villain, I'm kind of surprised that there was a creative difference between the director and the rest of the crew involved over whether or not they should pick this villain. And I mean, I don't really understand what could possibly have caused this difference of opinion. I mean, what could this character seem over the top? Was the actor himself in some kind of controversy? I've never heard of this actor myself, but I'm genuinely not sure.
At this point, it's so recent, it's so much hearsay and rumor, and it's also vague. We're probably not going to know for a while. We may never know.
Well, all we do know is that right now they are in the search of a new director. And while I would be excited for Edgar Wright to be doing a James Bond film, because anything that Edgar Wright is in, I'm usually like automatically going to try and watch. Brian and I were talking before the show, and we come to the conclusion that perhaps a James Bond movie would not be the best choice for Edgar Wright to be working in. Just due to style. As anybody out there knows, Edgar Wright is a man who focuses a lot on style. He wants the films to be cool, sleek, have really awesome transitions, good soundtracks, stuff like that. And with a James Bond movie, as ridiculous as the old plots used to be, with the more current films with Daniel Craig as James Bond, they have a more serious tone. And perhaps Edgar Wright wouldn't be the best choice for a film that's trying to keep all seriousness.
Yeah.
But there's only hope. Now, I'll pass this next little bit of news over to you, man.
Because this is a bit of news probably I'm the only person in the city that cares about. And that is that Netflix's live-action adaptation of Death Note is getting a sequel. We did it, 5 other people that like this movie. We did it!
No! Why?
Because it's a good movie.
It's okay, but why is it gotta be a Death Note movie, though?
Because the first one was awesome, and you know what? You get to live with it. You don't have to watch it, okay? I see this all the time. Oh, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? You don't have to watch it. No one's forcing you to watch it. They're not, like, destroying the original Death Note. They're not erasing it from existence and replacing it with this movie. They're making an adaptation, and you do not get to tell me that it's worse than the other live-action adaptations. Have you seen that CGI Ryuk? Have you seen it?
It was great!
No, it wasn't. Shush.
That Rook was alright.
Shush. Let me read the news.
Fine, but I have high hopes because the director seems to be a pretty good choice, okay?
We don't actually know if the director is going to be returning for the sequel. Though we do know that the writer is going to be Greg Russo, who is somewhat of a newcomer to Hollywood, though he's currently writing the scripts for the reboot of Resident Evil and Mortal Kombat.
That's a good enough choice, okay? I'm fine with that. Because I have been looking forward to the reboot of Resident Evil, and I have been looking forward to a reboot of Mortal Kombat, because I seem to be in the small minority of people who actually enjoyed the Mortal Kombat movie when it had come out. A lot of people seem to have problems with it, but I thought it was great.
Yeah, I have no idea what that feels like.
But I don't know, man. I don't know. I mean, it could be a good success, because, like you said, it was an Americanized adaptation of the original anime, and they weren't trying to be specifically to the detail of the original anime.
And I'm not saying it's perfect. There were lots of problems with pacing and story, but overall, I think it was a decent movie and a decent adaptation of the source material. Perfect? No. Good? Yes. And I'm glad it's getting a sequel.
When it comes to detective films, the Death Note movie was fairly good. I will admit that. As far as the Death Note movie, it wasn't its best when it comes to anime adaptations, but I mean, come on. What anime adaptation out there has ever been successful? I can't count, because there is nothing to count. Anytime there's a live-action adaptation of an anime, it doesn't do well as an adaptation, but like you said, Brian, sometimes an adaptation doesn't do well as an adaptation, but it does well as its own individual film. Mm-hmm. So, I might give this sequel a chance. I'll have to flip a coin for it, in my opinion, but I will give it a chance.
If you don't, I will watch it with my mother, because she liked it too.
And that's fair. That is fair, alright? That is fair. Now, I'll do this next little bit of news, and it's exciting news. Brendan Fraser is coming to the DC Universe, which is great, because we both can come to the terms that Brendan Fraser needs a lot more work in Hollywood.
He's a great actor, and he sort of got left out in the cold for the past few years, I feel like.
Yeah, I was really disappointed when he made an appearance in one of the G.I. Joe films, and it was an uncredited appearance.
It was so weird that was uncredited, because he made a bigger appearance than a lot of other credited actors, and it was so obvious. It wasn't like he was in the background. He was the trainer. He was the focus of a few scenes.
Yeah, people recognized him. It
was so weird that he was uncredited. I mean, did he see the final cut of the film and say, yeah, don't put my name on this? I could kind of get that from the quality of the film, but it's just so weird.
I know. I mean, the film was okay, but I mean, the fact that he didn't even get credited was just a disappointment. But Brendan Fraser will be lending his voice to the upcoming Doom Patrol series, which also has Vin Diesel in that project as well, so I'm excited about it. He'll be providing the voice of Robot Man, a man whose brain was put in a robot body after a horrific accident. Doom Patrol will be launching on the DC Universe streaming service and will take place in the same world as the upcoming live-action Titans. Now, that is a roadblock for me. Yeah. And that roadblock is the DC Universe streaming service.
Yeah, given how Titans look, I don't have high hopes for Doom Patrol unless they've got... We know it's going to be in the same universe, and we know Doom Patrol is going to be introduced in an episode of Titans, and one of the characters from Titans is going to be a main character on Doom Patrol. But I'm hoping there's a different creative team behind Doom Patrol. Specifically, no one that worked on Titans.
Yeah, I can agree with that, because that trailer was awful.
It was the...
I'm not looking forward to Titans, but hopefully another trailer can get dropped, and it'll change my hopes. But so far, Doom Patrol seems to be pretty interesting. I am looking forward to Doom Patrol. Mm-hmm. But it's still not going to buy me. I'm still not going to get the DC Universe streaming service. I'll just wait until the service potentially flops and it's available on Netflix.
I will buy one season of it for Young Justice, and that is all.
That is reasonable, because we finally get a continuation to that series. Hey, I'll pass this little bit of news over to you, man, since you're a big Destiny fan.
Mm-hmm. It has been announced that the new game mode coming to Destiny 2 and the Forsaken expansion will be free for all players to try on September 1st. For 24 hours, the Gambit game mode, which is a mixture of PvE and PvP play, will be available on Saturday, September 1st to anyone who owns the base Destiny 2 game. You will not be able to rank up in its ranking system that will be launching in Forsaken. You won't be able to get any of the gear, and none of the stats will be tracked. So this is really just a gameplay demo for people that may be on the fence about getting the expansion. And honestly, if they were looking for one game mode to sell an entire expansion on, Gambit would be it. It is a mixture of PvE and PvP. It's mainly PvE, where you and 4 other players are in an arena with a bunch of enemies. You kill them, you collect motes of light, and you turn them in at a bank in order to, once you get 100, you win, but at certain increments you also get to mess with another team that's doing the same thing on a different part of the map.
And you get to do that by summoning monsters.
Yeah, you get to summon 3 different sizes of Gatekeeper, each one getting harder, and I believe at the final checkpoint before winning, you can actually send one of your own players over, and that's where the PvP sort of comes in, is you could send one, like maybe your best PvP player over to mess with them, you know, kill them, boost up enemies, things like that.
And you know what? Even as somebody who never really got to play Destiny too much, like myself, I'm just excited at the gameplay footage that was shown for Gambit mode. As somebody outside of Destiny, I see a lot of expansions, and they look fun, but you know, as somebody who never got to actually play them, I don't get as much interest out of them. But this Gambit mode, seeing the gameplay, just the whole idea of it is fascinating. It's a gameplay mode that I never really got to see in any other game. I've heard of PvP, I've heard of PvE, I've heard of collecting resources and depositing them, I've heard of spending resources in order to summon things. But this is the first time ever that I've seen all these different aspects get morphed into one specific game mode. And I think everybody would be really interested in playing this game. You know?
And if people are interested in it, I'm thinking of actually recording some gameplay from the demo and putting it up on our Facebook page. So let us know if you'd be interested in seeing that.
Yes, definitely let us know, because we are excited about it, and I am really looking forward to it, guys. So, that about does it for our weekly wrap-up. Now, it is time for trailer talk. In this segment, Brian and I will discuss the latest trailers to come out and share our opinions with them. After this video, the trailers will be available in the descriptions. We were going to do that beforehand, but we were in a bit of a rush due to the technical difficulties. But after this episode is done, the trailers will be available for you guys to watch, and we would love to hear your guys' opinions on these trailers. We're going to start off with The Old Man and the Gun. This is based on the true story of Forrest Tucker and his audacious escape from San Quentin at the age of 70 to an unprecedented string of heists that confounded authorities and enchanted the public. Stars Robert Redford, Danny Glover, Sissy Spacek, and Casey Affleck. What were your thoughts on this trailer, man?
I liked it. I thought it was neat. And Robert Redford is an incredible actor, and apparently this is going to be his last film before retiring, so this is sort of his swan song.
It's a big deal.
But yeah, he plays this sort of southern gentleman thief, almost. You know, he walks into a bank, says, "Hi, I'd like to open an account," and when they ask which up, he opens his coat, there's a gun, they fill a bag with money, and he just walks out. He doesn't take anyone hostage, he doesn't kill anyone, he just goes in, gets the money, and leaves.
That's slick. I dig it. I dig it. And, you know, I happen to be a real sucker for escape films. I don't know what it is about them. I'm definitely looking forward to the film Papillon when it comes out, because that is also another escape story, which is going to be a remake of the original film Papillon. But I'm always looking forward to it. And the cast that was announced so far and that we've seen are really good cast members. I'm honestly excited just because Danny Glover is going to be in this film. I admit it's been a good minute since I've had the opportunity to really see him in too much work lately.
Hey, he got to the age where he's sort of retired. I mean, he still appears in things, but he's not, you know, constantly acting anymore.
Yeah.
Which, you know, he's in his 80s, I believe. I think that's fair.
It is fair. He's done a lot over the past, and it's fair enough. You know, and the fact that I'm just excited about the fact that he gets to be in this again. So I'll pass this next trailer over to you, Brian, since you are a huge fanatic, as am I, of this series in particular.
You know, I dispute the term fanatic, but I wouldn't have a leg to stand on. We got the newest trailer for the next season of RWBY. And for those unfamiliar, RWBY doesn't do traditional trailers most of the time with clips from the show. They do character shorts, which are basically mini episodes to get you hyped.
Yes, we usually have red, white, black, and yellow for most volumes, which focus around the main characters. But this one's a little different.
Yeah, this one focuses on Adam Taurus, one of the main villains of the show, showing his rise to power within the White Fang organization and his eventual decline into badness, really.
Mm-hmm.
How he transformed the White Fang from a peaceful protest group to a terrorist organization.
Now, for those people out there who are unfamiliar with the Ruby series, would you mind explaining to people a little bit about the White Fang and the group that they represent, the Faunus?
Yes, the Faunus and Ruby are essentially a second species of human that have animal traits. They are identical in every way except for one animal trait. Cat ears, wings, things like that.
Monkey tail.
Monkey tail, things like that. But of course they are a minority group, so they are heavily discriminated against. And that's where the White Fang comes in. The White Fang originally started as a peaceful protest organization trying to get equality for Faunus. But however, like many, many peaceful organizations, eventually radicals took control, transforming it from a protesting organization into a terrorist group. Stealing, blowing up buildings, attacking, murder, things like that.
Mm-hmm. And I thought that this trailer was pretty interesting because I myself have gotten up to the latest volume. It was volume 5, I want to say it was. Mm-hmm. I haven't been able to complete the series yet, but I have been able to see Adam Taurus quite a few times in the show. And he is definitely an interesting character to analyze. And this trailer was basically that. We get to see an analysis of Adam Taurus. We also got to see a little bit of his interactions with one of the main characters of the Ruby series, Blake Belladonna, which was also pretty interesting because we got to see a little bit more of interaction between the two.
Yes, the two had a romantic relationship in the past, and it was an abusive relationship, but instead of going the standard, he gets drunk and beats her route, they actually went with a bit more nuance to the abuse. He gaslights her, he psychologically manipulates her, he brings up her parents, who she has a strained relationship with, in order to manipulate her onto his side. And it's a horrible relationship, but it's interesting to see a piece of Ruby, which hasn't had the most nuanced writing in the past, actually approach it with a bit of nuance. It's nice.
It gives me the thought that perhaps this next volume, volume 6, is going to have a lot of extra writing done into it. A lot more analysis. Because with the previous volumes of Ruby, while there was good dialogue and good story, Monty Oum focused a lot on the action scenes and the rule of cool, which is good. I have no problems with it.
Which, he's an animator. He got big because of his really slick, really amazing choreography and animation, but not a lot of his early work had writing in it.
Yeah.
So it's understandable that he wouldn't be the best writer in the world.
Yeah, I agree with that. One of the main things that he got successful for was his Dead Fantasy franchise, which was a bunch of videos that showed Final Fantasy characters fight off the Dead or Alive characters, and it was mostly action scenes. But I'm excited about this next volume because it seems that we're going to have some really good writing potentially within it. The animation seems really good. Volume 5 had some decent animations, but there were certain points in time where it was a little iffy, and this next volume coming out seems really good. Now, when can we expect a release date for Volume 6?
Volume 6 releases October 27th on the Rooster Teeth site for... They haven't actually explained how they're going to be releasing it. I believe it's October 27th for First members, which is their subscription service for Rooster Teeth. And they haven't really explained how it's going to be released out there because they've changed how they're releasing things onto YouTube now because of the adpocalypse, which...
Yeah, it's been getting everybody.
But there will also be an in-theater showing of it on October 25th, and you can get tickets to that through Fathom Events. Of course, if you live in Stockton, you're going to have trouble because the theater here sucks, and so hasn't set up ticketing for it.
Hey, no hating on theater here. It's not like we have a lot of them to go to.
Yeah.
Now, our next trailer... Actually, I'm going to pass this one over to you, Brian, because this is another Destiny topic, and it is a Destiny expansion trailer.
This is what you get when you let me write the script.
I have no problems with it. I was busy with the event today.
So, the trailer, much like the last trailer we talked, wasn't a straight-up trailer, but it was actually a cutscene from the upcoming expansion.
To be honest, man, I'll let you continue, but I just wanted to mention that I wanted to try and talk more about video game trailers and show trailers, because To be honest, we're a show dedicated to pop culture, and I was afraid that we were talking too much about film. You know, we got to try and do a little bit of expansion, so I thought it'd be a good idea if we got to throw in some game trailers and whatnot. Anyways, sorry for interrupting. I'll pass it back over to you.
This was Destiny 2 Forsaken, the last stand of the gunslinger. Now, for a while now, we have known that Destiny mainstay character Cade 6, voiced by Nathan Fillion, this sort of swashbuckling, funny robot cowboy, is going to die in Forsaken. That's how the expansion starts off. He and our Guardian go to the Prison of Elders to stop a prison break, and through events we're not quite sure of yet, that ends in his death at the hands of Prince Aldrin, who... So much backstory to go into there, not going to try it. But this showed the final moments of Cade 6. It shows him falling deep into the prison, fighting off hordes of enemies, and eventually being beaten through a wall with the implication that his death is going to happen soon after. They do not show his death, though we've already kind of seen it in a different trailer, but these are the last moments of Cade 6. And he goes out swinging. He's going up against a horde of enemies with a revolver, a knife, and a grenade, and he just wrecks shop.
Even though I'm not somebody who got to play the Destiny games, I am honestly upset that Cade 6 is going to be dead.
Yeah.
I got to see reviews of Vanilla Destiny and the expansions that had come out with it, and Cade 6 was one of the characters that happened to be able to save the franchise and pull people's attention, because The Fallen King was a really good expansion.
Yeah, Taken King was amazing.
Yeah, Taken King, sorry. And a lot of people fell in love with Cade 6 and his personality. That's why when Destiny 2 dropped a trailer to promote the game, they focused a lot on Cade 6, because they knew that people would be interested in his character. Mm-hmm. So the fact that he's passing away it's unfortunate. But I guess it was bound to happen eventually.
It's something that needed to happen for the franchise, because between Destiny and Destiny 2's release, the writing took a distinctly lighter and sillier tone, and Cade 6 was sort of at the center of that. In Destiny 1, he was a funny character, but it was very dark humor. Mm-hmm. And in Destiny 2, the highlight of his character was at one point he got a pet chicken.
I forgot about that.
Named the Colonel.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, and I think that they needed to kill a character we cared about, and Cade is literally the only actual character in this franchise. Not a caricature, but an actual character. Mm-hmm. So they needed to kill him, and this is the fit they needed to get back into the sort of really dark feeling of Destiny. Because Destiny was a really dark game.
Yeah.
And Destiny 2 hasn't really had that feeling of darkness. It's been very bright and energetic, and on the one hand that's nice in some parts, on the other hand you sort of lose the feeling that the franchise used to have.
That's true. My only concern with this is that with Cade 6 gone, there's not really any characters that people can invest interest into.
Well, that's something they're going to have to pick up the slack with some of the characters in Forsaken. Hopefully they do it. If not, I don't know. Will it really be that different?
I suppose not. Well, anyways, folks, that was our segment of trailer talk. Like I said, after this video, the trailers will be available in the descriptions for the Facebook and YouTube pages. So be sure to give those a watch, and we would love to hear your guys' opinions on what you thought about these trailers. And without further ado, it's time for us to enter our discussion pieces. And we only have 2 discussion pieces. One is a pretty dramatic one, the other one's a bit more hilarious. So please buckle up and hang in there for the dramatic discussion piece that we have to talk about. So recently this week, CD Projekt Red has been in a bit of a controversy. As we said earlier, CD Projekt Red is the people behind the upcoming game Cyberpunk 2077. This is due to an employee responding to a tweet with a "did you just assume their gender" joke on the official Cyberpunk Twitter account. Now, while the official account has made an apology on social media apologizing for this incident, people don't seem to be very pleased with the company at this moment. In fact, people are now claiming they will no longer pre-order the game, nor will they ever play it, with the assumption that all of CD Projekt Red is transphobic. The employee has been doxxed on Reset Era, and people are demanding that said employee gets fired from the company. The CD Projekt Red has yet to come up with a statement regarding people's demands, though it has been noted that insiders in the company are looking into this issue.
This entire thing is just sort of a cluster.
It really is a cluster. On one hand, the "did you just assume their gender" joke is indeed a joke very offensive to transgender people, though I myself admit I wasn't really aware of the intention behind this joke for the longest time. I've heard a lot of people crack jokes about it. In fact, I've even heard transgender people themselves crack this joke, so I had no idea that it was in fact offensive or
it's
transphobic.
one of those jokes that appears around the internet so much and is actually used by some trans people as an actual joke that it's sometimes hard to recognize that it actually comes from a place that's offensive.
Yes, and this also comes to a lot of people's defense that perhaps this employee did not understand the significance of the joke that was said. Mm-hmm. In the official tweet, we don't have screen capping technology with us at the moment here, but I talked about it in my video at Heitman. The tweet that was shown was somebody sharing another tweet from the Cyberpunk official Twitter account showing employees working on the game at the moment. And the person's response was in all caps, "I want more guys," but they forgot to include a comma at the between guys and more. So it came across as a person saying, "I want more guys," in all capital letters, which is why the account responded with the "did you just assume their gender" joke. This whole thing is a big mistake. The employee, of course, made a mistake, and an apology has been made, but there's also the fact that a lot of people in the gaming community are kind of taking this a little too seriously. They are acknowledging it as they should acknowledge it, as a transphobic statement made through an official Twitter account.
Yes, even if the employee didn't intend to offend anyone, if they did offend someone, they absolutely should apologize.
Yes.
And that should be that. But I'm not... I mean, maybe this person is a transphobic... I am not saying they are. But there's a possibility. We do not know the story. And maybe they are. And if they are, they should be fined for making this statement. But if they're not, they're an employee that's seen this joke floating around the internet and just thought they were, getting in on the joke.
Yes. And another thing that really bothers me about this whole situation is that one person's Twitter comment has the entire gaming community think that all of CD Projekt Red is transphobic. People don't want to pre-order the game now. People don't want to play it now because they're saying, "Oh, CD Projekt Red is transphobic." Did you see their statement on Twitter? When people don't realize this is one person, perhaps in PR, somebody whose job is to handle the official Twitter account. This is not the entire all of CD Projekt Red. There are a lot of people involved in the project, people who work on the artwork, character concepts, character models, background models. Lots of people are involved into this game, and it's unfair to assume that because of one tweet, every single person in that studio is transphobic, and because of that, you shouldn't give them your money. Of course, if you don't want to get the game, we're not saying that you should get the game. It is your choice. If that leads to you not wanting to buy the game, that's totally fine, and we have no problems with that.
Yeah, I don't advocate for pre-ordering. I don't think it's a practice that people should encourage with their money. But if you want to pre-order, you're going to. I can't stop you. It's your choice. I advise against it. But don't let this affect your decision. This is one employee making a potentially unintentionally offensive joke that has sort of gotten blown out of proportion. What I think should have happened was CD Projekt Red apologizes. Maybe the employee goes to a bit of sensitivity training, which, maybe they need it, maybe they don't, but they should go to it anyway just for PR purposes. Yeah. And then we should have been able to move on. But now he's been doxxed.
Now he has been doxxed.
At least I think it's a he. I'm not 100%. It could have been a she. I think it's a he, though.
Yeah, we're not sure. The name that I got from the screenshot was blurred out, but on the website, Reset Era, on my video I kept calling it Reset Gen for some reason, but on Reset Era, a website that's for, I want to say, more liberal-minded opinions on video games.
It's a little more liberal than some other places. I think it's more that it's one of those weird areas where the moderators are a bit more liberal, which means sort of the entire flow of the site gets directed in that direction.
Mm-hmm. And on this website, one person decided to share, I want to say, his Google Hangouts account. It wasn't a direct like show people his email, show people his phone number or address or anything like that. It was one of his links to one of his social media accounts. But we don't know what's going on in that situation, whether the employee is being harassed constantly, though usually with these kind of scenarios that has a tendency to happen when a person gets doxxed. And I also find it interesting, and I also mentioned this in my video, that a lot of people in Reset Era who are talking about this on a thread, because the other two got removed for some reason, perhaps because of the doxing, a lot of people who are coming to this person's defense saying, hey, he might not know about this. He might not know that the joke was offensive. Maybe if we could take the opportunity to find out if this guy really meant what he said, then we should get mad about it. Anybody who is coming up with this defense is being immediately banned. And I find that a little unnerving, because this means that nobody's willing to listen to potential reason on
Yeah,
this.
and it's one of the commenters that got banned was basically saying, we don't know this guy. We don't know why he said this, and I am not going to condemn him immediately until we know all the facts. And they got banned for peddling or defending transphobic remarks. And that's not peddling or defending. That's giving the benefit of the doubt. That's something we should be giving, is the benefit of the doubt. They were saying they would not condemn someone until they had proof that they were worthy of condemnation, and they themselves got condemned for that.
Yeah.
There's a certain irony to that.
It really is. So I personally just kind of have a bit of an axe to grind with Reset Era, because I was looking at a lot of these bannings, and there was one that I mentioned that I saw. I didn't mention it in my video. There was somebody, and because I said on the video that the people who get banned, the moderators are able to come up with their own reasoning behind why this person got banned. It's not like you check a box or whatever. It's just you get to write down a reason. And for a lot of the bans, they all share similarities. So at first I was unsure about this conclusion. But then there was one person that said this is kind of like the people getting banned is kind of like Fahrenheit 451. Anybody who has an opposing view is being immediately banned and blocked because they're an opposing view.
Kinda.
And the banning, the reason why this person banned is because they compared bigotry to book burning. That is the literal reason why this person got banned.
Yeah, Reset Era is this weird one where it's not like where the banning, where it's not like you select from a set of things like, oh, homophobia, oh, transphobia, things like that. Whoever's banning you actually writes in the reason you were banned.
Which is, I find it hilarious.
I mean, if it, put a reason you were banned and then had a little comment section elaborating on it, that'd be fine, but just being able to write in, and then it's where you get things like transphobia, equating transphobia to book burning, which that's not what
I don't know, man.
One thing that I noticed a lot of people aren't talking about is something that may be CD Projekt Red's fault, because this isn't the first time they've gotten into trouble because of their Twitter account.
I heard there was something that happened regarding The Witcher 3, but I don't know anything about it.
It wasn't involving The Witcher 3, it was actually regarding their game platform, GOG, which is basically, it's Steam, but DRM free.
Okay.
Also, they have a lot better sales. Anyway, their GOG account, around a year ago, posted a tombstone with games journalism written on it, and the date was the founding date of Gamergate.
Oh.
Which, we're not getting into that right now. We're not getting into it. There's too much. It's too hot.
I have to restrain myself.
Yes. But anyway, in the aftermath of that blow-up, there was actually an interview with the head of CD Projekt Red, where it was revealed they don't really have any hiring standards for who's on their social media team. Which is kind of an issue. I mean, I'm not saying everyone has to be a professional, social media analyst that's been in the business for 5 years, but the implication that there's no real criteria for it seems like it would lead to things like this, for people posting dumb jokes or accidentally transphobic jokes, because they haven't really been professionally trained. So I think a certain amount of this could be pointed at CD Projekt Red, in that they don't vet their social media people enough.
That is very true. These guys should be able to know who to hire to handle the social media accounts. like you said, it doesn't need to be one of those professional analysts whose whole career involves operating social media, but the person who's running the account should at least know what jokes are considered offensive in this day and age. Even if they're small little meme jokes, something straight out of 4chan, whatever have you, these guys should know about this. So that way, when they make a post, they know for a fact this isn't going to be offensive. Or at least have somebody whose responsibility is to analyze these posts before they are actually sent out there on social media. You know? But again, this is also due to the fact that CD Projekt Red is held up to a very high standard. They're one of the few video game companies that don't really get too much flack for a lot of drama out there.
Because they make good games, they have good business practices, they're just overall good.
Yeah, so the fact that all this happened, of course, is going to lead to some heartbreak and whatnot, but we're going to close this little discussion piece with what we said earlier. Don't let this affect your impact on whether or not you're going to get this game or not. Whether or not this person intended to be transphobic or not, from what I've gathered, the whole idea of cyberpunk is being able to transcend the norms of what you can normally be. There's even rumors floating around that this game might be able to have more than 2 genders. While it has not been confirmed yet, it is still a good possibility. So, again, just don't let it affect your impact. That's all I have to say about it. Now,
next discussion piece is George Clooney.
Yes!
That's all it says. The script literally just says George Clooney.
Because
at the bottom there.
Because I know what I'm talking about, and I don't need reference material.
Okay, George Clooney. Go ahead.
George Clooney has recently been nominated as the highest paid actor out there. Now, while there are a lot of people who are on this list, Adam Sandler is one of the people who are on this list, thanks to Netflix and whatnot. The reason why George Clooney has become the highest paid actor is not through acting. No. The biggest qualification you'd think would be required to be the highest paid actor is not the reason why he is the highest paid actor. The reason behind it is because he recently sold his tequila company. To be honest, I forget the name of his tequila company, but because he sold this, he earned like a whopping $1 billion out of it. And it was later revealed that he only invested like $600,000 out of this, so he made even more money out of that. And because he made all this money off of this business, he is now the highest paid actor in Hollywood. I find that hilarious. Like, how is that a qualifying factor? You should get paid off of movie budgets. That should be what qualifies you to appear on this list. If you get paid through acting. A lot of celebrities out there have business practices. People have their own businesses, their own lines, their own perfumes, things like that. But that should not qualify whether or not you are the highest paid actor. That is a business standpoint, not an acting standpoint.
You're really hot over this. You're really steamed.
I am steamed. How is this a qualifier?
Because he's an actor and he made a lot of money.
But not through acting. That should
technicality.
I don't know, man. I mean, I think if you should in order to become the highest paid actor, they should look at how much money you earn through your roles in film. Whether you're an actor, whether you've directed something, no, not even directed something, because that is like highest paid director. It should depend on the films that you yourself have acted in, how much money you accumulated over that point in time. That should be what helps you become the highest paid actor. It should not involve whether or not you sold a tequila company and made billions off of it. And I wanted to mention that because it really grinds my gears. And I find the whole thing hilarious. Like, now it's just, I want to be an actor because I'm going to invest in a company, make sure it's very, very wildly successful, and then when the nominations start rolling around, I'm just going to sell the business, make a ton of money, so that way I can be plastered all over magazines everywhere as Ed Heitman, the highest paid actor in Hollywood, with the parentheses, but not through acting. I
feel like Clooney doesn't care because he made $250 million off of this. He doesn't really care about what he gets told. He cares he has $250 million more.
Precisely! He doesn't even care! So why should we even have him on this dang list?
Because people like lists. Why do you think BuzzFeed still exists?
Ah, you had to bring BuzzFeed into this. God, that's all I have to say. It was more of a rant than it was a discussion piece, but...
With the amount of times I ran about Destiny, you get to rant about George Clooney and tequila.
Yes! And I'm glad you brought that up, because we do have a Destiny rant in store for you guys, and this is a special incident, and my good friend Brian is going to eventually be talking about this on his channel, Excel, and that is with 3 L's, not 2, because there's another channel that has 2 L's.
Yeah, YouTube's complicated.
And so I want to pass it over to you, Brian, to discuss the ramen voucher incident.
Oh, the expired ramen coupon. When on Tuesday at the weekly reset for Destiny, when everything refreshes, new vendor stock, new items, and milestones to complete, there was a new quest on the directory. Cade's Spicy Ramen. And what you needed to do to start the quest was you needed to go to a ramen shop in the tower and talk to the lady there. And you do that, she gives you an expired ramen coupon. And that's it. That's all there is.
Sounds simple enough to me.
Yeah, there's some neat lore on the coupon, and normally, you know, that'd be it. We get a bit of cool lore relating to a character we know is going to be dying in less than 2 weeks. But the problem is, fans already knew about this. Fans have known about this for over a month now. Because Destiny has a fairly open API, which allows fans to go in and see data on a lot of items, and it's allowed a lot of really great third-party apps to be created that can help you manage your gear and things like that. Mm-hmm. But it also means that some items that would normally be secrets aren't secret, which is why a month ago people found the data for Cade's Spicy Ramen Quest and the expired ramen coupon. So for a month, people had been talking about this on Reddit. Content creators had been speculating about what it could be and when it was coming. Oh, could it lead to a new quest? Oh, could it lead to a new weapon? Oh, does it unlock an exclusive emblem? Oh, could it even unlock Forsaken a day early if we complete the quest in time? So then we go in, and all it is an expired ramen coupon with some lore on it. And people lost their minds.
The outrage.
The outrage on it. People were insisting, no, there has to be more to it. And then there was, when Bungie confirmed, nope, that's all there is to it. There's nothing else. It's just the coupon. They're saying, oh, they owe us an apology for getting our hopes up. But they didn't. They said absolutely nothing about this until it launched and people started complaining. They did not say a single word about spicy ramen or expired coupons. They did not hype this up, because if they had, I think they realized they would have led to people getting disappointed, because all it is a bit of lore. But the community itself hyped this up. The community itself built this up into something it wasn't, and then when it turned out it wasn't this thing, they needed to get angry at someone, and they were going to get angry at themselves, so why not get angry at Bungie for not doing anything?
I seriously feel like this isn't the first time that the Destiny community has disappointed itself over its own hype.
No, it's really not. It's really, really not. And we go through the cycle over and over. You remember the raisins? Do you remember the raisins?
Please tell us about the raisins.
The raisins. Okay. In October of 2015, they launched the Festival of the Lost. That's what it was. And it was their Halloween event. It's not Halloween, but it was Halloween. You could put on masks. You could collect candy.
Oh, cool.
This and that. And one of the vendors, who's known for being a bit of a sourpuss, instead of giving you candy, gave you a box of raisins. And that was it.
It sounds like your typical Halloween.
Yeah, and that's pretty much it. There was no lore on the raisins. There was nothing more to these raisins for a while. And most people actually just deleted these raisins because item space was at a bit of a premium at that point in Destiny, so you couldn't really have a useless box of raisins taking up space.
Yeah, you know,
But some people saved them. And a year later, when the Festival of the Lost came around again, they had become Ascendant Raisins. Imbued by the power of your light, after a year, these raisins had become ascendant, and you turned them in, and you got this really neat shader. It was all black. It was the only shader like it that was all one color. It looked really cool. You could still get this thing through a long quest if you didn't have the ascendant raisins because you deleted your regular raisins. And then, later on that year, she gave you a piece of celery.
And there was hype over the celery, I'm guessing.
Well, yeah, but then Destiny 2 came out and the celery didn't transfer over, so we sort of ignored the celery for now. Celery's sort of nothing. So there is some precedence for, after a long time, a useless item becoming useful again. But after the raisins came out and there was nothing, people lost their minds. Which you may remember, because I said it 2 minutes ago, referring to this ramen coupon. They lose their minds over every little thing. And some of it is completely justified. Some of it, like microtransactions, like XP throttling, like this and that.
Yeah.
Like all these bad decisions Bungie makes, that's completely justified. But sometimes they're allowed to make a joke.
Sometimes
they're allowed to give you a box of raisins for Halloween. And that's a joke. It doesn't lead to a new quest. I mean, it did, but I get the feeling it only led to this entire new shader thing and Ascendant Raisins because of the backlash.
Yeah.
I
find it hilarious how in the past there was an incident that people had no hype over, and then their expectations got blown. And now with Destiny 2, there was an item that gave everybody hype, and then it blew their expectations.
Because they have set up some precedent for this. There have been hidden weapons that have been hidden behind really complicated things. Like in Destiny 1, there was the Outbreak Prime, where in order to get it, you had to find 4 hidden monitors in a raid. The last one was a real pain to find. I remember it took like a week for anyone to find the 4th one. You then had to go to a room, solve a binary code. In this room there were a bunch of tanks. You had to step on them in a certain order corresponding to the binary to get a pod to open. You open that pod, you get an item where you have to solve math problems. You then have to go do a hard mode activity where you get an even more complicated math cube. You then have to beat the hard mode of the raid, which gives you a 3rd, even more complicated math cube. And then you get a really great gun from it.
Wow.
And see, it was this little thing of one person noticing, hey, that monitor looks weird over there. And that led to this entire complicated quest that gave us a really great gun. So there is some precedence for seemingly insignificant things being great, being amazing. But sometimes they're just insignificant.
That is insane.
Yeah.
Man. Well, anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that about does it for today's episode of the Phone Booth here on KXVS, the voice of Stockton. My name is Ed Heitman, and joining me in the studio is my good friend and co-host, Brian Rodriguez. Be sure to tune in every week on this day, Saturday, from 1 to 2, and we do our very best to cover all things pop culture. Movies, TV, video games, comics, you name it, and we'll do our very best to cover it. Be sure to check out our Facebook page, The Phone Booth, as well as my YouTube channel, Ed Heitman, or my friend's YouTube channel, Excel.
And if there are any stories you think we should cover or take a look at, be sure to message us with them, because we'd love to hear from you guys.
Yes, please let us know, because we're always looking forward to news topics that you guys send our way. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, have a wonderful, wonderful afternoon.
Remember, George Clooney.
George Clooney.